Let's go to Winnipeg and bring in Darrin Bauming. Bonfire Sports. Are you a Mad Max fan, Darrin?
No, unfortunately not. But if you're into it, I don't know. I'm probably second guessing myself.
I'm not. I haven't seen it. But it keeps showing up. And there's a new movie of the trilogy in theaters. It looks awesome. But every time I go to watch, every time I pull it up on streaming, it shows up as an option on the thumbnail. Nothing compels me to watch it. And now everybody in the comments is saying you got to watch the old Mad Max. It was great. So I don't know.
I love good movies, right? But they're like the last thing I think about. Like I got buddies that like they're pulling off, quotable lines of their favorite movies from like the 90s and that sort of thing. And I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. But then I watch the movie and I'm like, oh my God, that's like the funniest thing of my entire childhood. So I don't know, I guess I got too many dumb sports statistics stuck in my head.
I know. Look, it's great to see you and Walby back on the show, Bonfire Sports. That's awesome. We're tuning in. We're watching. You guys look great, and it seems like it's growing every day. What's the latest from Winnipeg Blue Bombers training camp?
Yeah, it's kind of business as usual here, right? Over the last couple years, it's been, they're back from another Grey Cup, and they won 2, they lost 2, but been to 4 straight, and it's like, these veterans are back, these all-stars are back, these coaching staff is back. It's kind of just been business as usual for the last few years. It's probably just how head coach Mike O'Shea wants it, right? The conversation when you talk to people in the West or the East across Canada is, wow, the Blue Bombers are getting old, and can the bodies hold up, and are they actually the odds-on Grey Cup favorite as they seem to be every year? Are they actually? And I mean, the age will eventually creep up, and it will potentially bite them. But this is what I do know. General Manager Kyle Walters has been, in my opinion, the best executive in this league for the last half decade. Drafting incredibly well, adding the right free agents, letting other free agents go, whether it's due to cost or performance or that sort of thing. He seems to have made most of the right decisions. And the scouting staff, Danny McManus, Ted Gavaya, who are tapped almost perennially to be a GM in other CFL markets every winter. They're in the conversation for those things. Those guys are still putting in incredible work down south, across Canada and U Sports, to bring in that depth, to bring in that next, heir apparent, if you will, for some of those older guys.
Yeah, well, 2 of the guys that aren't back and holes to fill, Jamarcus Hardrick now with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Demario Houston's with the Calgary Stampeders. So on either side of the football, how do they plan to replace those 2 All-Stars?
Yeah, they hit some bad luck just the other day as Jamal Parker, who stole Winston Rose's job late last season at corner and started in the Grey Cup. He went down to injury and is on the 6-game injury list to start the season. It sounds like he's going to be a while. So it's not just losing CFL interception leader Demario Houston. It's losing a couple of those guys. They did get Tyrell Ford, a Canadian, obviously the twin brother of Trey Ford, the quarterback of the Edmonton Elks. They got him back from the NFL. He was with the Green Bay Packers, was amongst their final cuts in training camp in 2023, and kind of waited around for another NFL opportunity after that. Didn't come to fruition. He's here and looking like he'll start as a Canadian at corner. So, they got a whole crop of guys here that they're hoping to add to a very talented defensive backfield. 2 CFL All-Stars in Evan Holm, and for my money, a top 5 player in this league, regardless of position, Dietrich Nichols. Offensively, you mentioned Jamarcus Hardrick. What he misses, like what Winnipeg will be missing from him on the field, I think is matched or even overcome by what he brings off the field. The energy, the enthusiasm, the kind of leadership by camaraderie, picking guys up in the end zone and carrying them to the sidelines after a touchdown. The way he gets fired up inside the locker room, during the games, on a Tuesday afternoon at practice, following a bye week. It's incredible what he brought to this team on and off the field. But Winnipeg still has Patrick Neufeld, the Saskatchewan native. They have, future Hall of Famer Stanley Bryant. Chris Kolinkowski was an all-star at center. They have to replace Jeff Gray, a Winnipegger and Canadian starter at left guard. They've got some Canadians that have been waiting in the wings to fill that spot. Coincidentally, Jamarcus Hardrick goes to Saskatchewan. It's going to be a former Rough Rider left and right tackle, Eric Lofton, who is very likely going to step in for Jamarcus Hardrick on that offensive line. Overall, you add Chris Streveler to an offense that had, the West Division MOP in Brady Oliveira and a quarterback like Zach Collaros with Dalton Schoen and Kenny Lawler. I don't know if there's a team as talented on offense as Winnipeg is.
It's going to be fun to watch, and I'll be really curious to see how they decide to use Streveler, and no doubt they will. We saw glimpses of everything he's expected to bring to the table in that preseason game over Saskatchewan. Actually threw the ball pretty well, but also, was the leading rusher for the Bombers in that preseason game. Love to see it. Quickly, what can you tell me about Anthony Bennett? I know he was released, the former Regina Ram, just because I'm a big fan of his, but he was released from camp.
Yeah, and it was a surprise. Obviously, first-round draft pick of the Blue Bombers just back in 2023. I made some phone calls, was trying to figure out what was going on, and it's like, okay, it's something medical, something injury, that sort of thing. And then Mike O'Shea, kind of out of character, just straight up told us, he's hurt. He's still around. We see him here at the facility at the newly coined Princess Auto Stadium. He's in good spirits and definitely still in the plans for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this year.
Love to hear that because great kid. He's got an infectious energy and good to be around for sure. You mentioned Streveler. The other thing I noticed, and this is just kind of fun, but 3 Down Nation has Weston Dressler's article at the top of the page. I don't know if you saw this. Hasn't said and won't commit to who he's going to go into the Hall of Fame with. Weston Dressler is going to go into the 2024 class September 13th at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. He hasn't said if he's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a Saskatchewan Rough Rider or a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. He really loved those final seasons ending his career in Winnipeg. So make a case on why Weston Dressler should go into the Hall of Fame as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Hall of Fame. It's beyond the Saskatchewan market and the Winnipeg market, right? So ultimately, it's going to be up to Weston Dressler, and very deserving first ballot guy, right? Like, he was just so impressive and so consistent and so professional every single year he played in the CFL. If I had to make a case for him to go in as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, it would be that he was part of a real important and significant transitional phase of this franchise. He was part of that Mike O'Shea culture rebuild that started in 2014. 2013 was a disaster, the first season in this new stadium in Winnipeg, where the team went 3-13, or 3-15, whatever it was. It was just an awful year where they didn't know what was coming next. Weston Dressler, Matt Nichols, were some of those guys that were the foundational pieces of the offense as they tried to kind of right the ship. It was the addition of Adam Bighill and Willie Jefferson and Andrew Harris that really brought this team over the top and to their first Grey Cup championship in 29 years back in 2019. Weston obviously wasn't part of that team. He had retired at that point already, but when you talk about leadership and character and the type of person Mike O'Shea is looking for in a Winnipeg Blue Bomber player, Weston Dressler embodied that and so much more.
Yeah, unbelievable. And, he'll make his choice and he'll have fun with it, but definitely deserving of going into the Hall of Fame. And we're going to look forward to that. Yeah. Look, we only got a couple minutes here before we got to let you go. How much are you following the Winnipeg Jets amidst training camp and their search for a new head coach?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's a lot of dissenting perspectives amongst fans and even media. We get into some good heated debates here in Winnipeg. But, a lot of people thinking it will be associate coach Scott Arniel, who stepped in for Rick Bowness when he had to step away from the team a couple times this year due to his health and the health of his wife. It's good for Rick Bowness that he's able to now transition into life. I mean, he's never going to be out of hockey, but after hockey. We know that the dominoes that had to fall were the Toronto Maple Leafs head coaching job, the New Jersey Devils head coaching job. There are other teams that need a head coach, and I think Rick Bowness will be involved in the Winnipeg Jets search for that next person, whether it is Scott Arniel, who's been here over the last number of years and was here in years past as well with the Manitoba Moose of the American Hockey League, or if it's somebody new to bring in, I don't know, in my opinion, what Winnipeg needs, and that is a bit of a shot in the arm. There is, I'll just speak bluntly, they need drivers. They need drivers on the ice. They need drivers in the locker room. I don't know if the existing talent and existing leadership core, talent core of this Winnipeg Jets team has that. I think they need the right coach to extract that from incredible on-ice talent that they do have. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go. It really could be one way or the other.
It's interesting. Really looking forward to seeing who they decide. And lastly, who do you got tonight in Game 1, Edmonton or Dallas?
Oh, I mean, Dallas is just so dang good. I'm pulling for Edmonton a little bit. I think it would be good for the league and everybody to see Connor McDavid in a Stanley Cup final, give him a chance to win his first cup. But man, I mean, the defense core, the goaltending, the system, the depth of offensive contribution that they get, it's going to be really hard for Edmonton, especially coming off a tough series against Vancouver. Game 1 in Dallas, I'll give it to the Stars. I don't think this series is going to go 7 games.
No. Well, it'll be fun tonight, Darrin. Appreciate it. Enjoy training camp, and all the best.
Great to be on with you, man. Talk soon.
Darrin Bauming, Bonfire Sports, great stuff. Find him on YouTube, pregame, postgame, all the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coverage, and he writes for NHL.com.